Okay. Good morning and welcome, folks.
Well, we're
Wonderful to be.
fine.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, I saw your video yesterday evening. Yeah, nice.
Yes. Great to be back. Chaim l'chaim Mizracha.
Lecher.
And we begin today a new mimer, a new Hasidic discourse in preparation for Yutes Kislev, 19th day of Kislev, the day the Alter Rebbe was released from prison in 1798. And it's based on a verse in Tehillim in chapter 55 of Tehillim of Psalms. This is the psalm that he was saying while in prison when he's notified of his release. The Rebbe said this in 1980. And it begins with the famous words, Pada b'shalom, redeemed in peace. Nafshi, my soul was redeemed in peace. Mikravli, from being close to me, ki berabim, because the multitudes, hayoimadi, were with me. Again, chapter 55 rather, verse 19, from Tehillim, from Psalms. So these words is the words that the Alter Rebbe was saying as he was redeemed from being in prison, right, by the Tsar of Russia. So the Alter Rebbe himself spoke about these words. His son, who was his successor, also spoke about it, about when he was redeemed himself also from imprisonment, which was, the next generation. And the emphasis over here is redemption in peace, right? And also on the words, close to me. In other words, usually, it doesn't use the words battle. It's redemption in a peaceful manner without battle. And furthermore, that the redemption is for me. Okay, as the words say. Also, we need to understand that the multitudes were with me, which sounds like that's the reason for being redeemed. What is all of this about? All of these diukim, exactingness in the verse, we need to understand. So, the explanation is as follows. To be redeemed means you're redeemed from something, from someone that is holding you back, that you need redemption, right? There has to be the reality of a menagid, someone opposed, someone holding you back, someone incarcerating you, right? Like someone holding you in prison. Because of course, if there is no opposing force, you don't need to be redeemed. And, and in particular, when we speak about holiness, is the only reality, the only thing, God's holiness, So there's no need for redemption if one is engaged in God's holiness. But if there is a menagid, an opposer, right? Someone opposing and incarcerating in particular, so then you need redemption, right? So what is the opposition over here? Opposition to holiness means darkness, folly, foolishness. And that's what the redemption needs, to come from this dark place, right? Which, of course, what you would call a prison, right? A dark place where the alternative physically was. And from this darkness, this folly, this foolishness, there needs to be a redemption. Now, redemption in this manner, coming from darkness, means that there's a gain. It can't be you're just coming to the same playing field as you were before. You're not coming to the same situation life was before. That's not what it means to be redeemed. Redeemed from darkness means there's greater light that comes from the darkness. There's something more that comes out of it. It's a very important principle generally, right? We don't deal with a dark situation just to get out of it. We don't deal with difficult people who are au contraire just so we could, survive by the skin of our teeth. God doesn't bring us a challenge that we just, get around the challenge. No. The point of this, holding back, this minagit, this opposition, is in order that there should be something greater that comes out of it. So it has to be what we call yisrin or mitech, greater light that comes from the darkness, greater wisdom that comes out of the folly, out of the foolishness, right? And that's not just in what's the word, in just in an amount, but also in quality. Qualitative difference has to come out. That's what it means to be redeemed from darkness. Now, this redemption could be in two ways. You could be redeemed, right, from opposition, from that which is an opposing force, right, a negative opposing force, through a battle, right? Usually that's the way of the world. If anything that's an opposition, you got to fight. You got to fight. But sometimes, as in our verse over here, it comes in peace. You don't need to fight. And in this itself could be also in two different ways. In other words, you could be waging a battle, or it could be in peace against the opposition. Right? And this itself could also be in two ways, that the redemption could be that which you are, opposition, right, could be, you gotta eliminate the opposition. Or opposition could be, when it's close, it means to refine the opposition. And that's how you come out of the redemption by an added light, is because the reason why there's opposition is in order that there should be something more that comes out of that opposition. And if it's as the verse says, Mikravli, be close to me, right? The redemption in peace, in that which is close to me. In other words, that which I'm, the opposition that is to be refined, right? Even though in the moment of the, in that moment they're not refined, right? Because the captor is holding the captive, right? So, but yet it's done in a manner, right? I'm giving the idea over here. We're gonna, jump into it and get a real flavor of what this means. Right? That the right, even though in that moment they're not yet, because there's opposition, they're not yet refined, because if they were refined, they wouldn't be in opposition. And they're not redeemed. But there's a closeness over here, which all of these things we're going to understand, right? I'm just giving you the, the concept over here, and then the discourse will go into greater depth, give us understanding. Or it could be that the opposition is in a distance, right? Or the opposition could be in a distance. Okay, in our verse, it says they're not in a distance, the opposition, they're close. So what's that mean? Well, we'll see. And furthermore, that this redemption is to me. And me doesn't change, right? Me doesn't change, which will, right? Because me is me wherever I go, right? Not, me the way I act in one place is one way. I act in a different place with other people a different way, right? But when we're talking about the redemption is not merely to the way I act. So in other words, like, it's touching the me of me, which doesn't change. Interesting. In other words, you would think that it's just touching your way that you engage. When you're incarcerated, you engage differently than when you're free, right? So anyways, just we're creating a structure here of an idea, right? Which we will get to. Not today, but at least we're creating it. Furthermore, the reason why there's redemption, right? Let's go through the verse. I was redeemed in peace from closeness to me. Why? Key, because the word key means because. So why was I redeemed? Right? Is giving a reason. Because the multitudes were with me. What does that mean? So this is explained in two possible ways. The multitudes were with me because they prayed for me, right? Multitudes were with me because they prayed for me. And that's and right. That's one explanation, which explains why there's redemption. And why the redemption, I guess, is in peace is because the multitudes, the people, were with me. How are they with me? They prayed for me. That's how you show you're with somebody, right? Someone needs to be redeemed. Someone is going through something. So just to say, my thoughts are with you ain't good enough. Pray. Pray for that person, right? Say Mishaberach, say some Tehillah, Psalms, right? Exactly what we're saying here. The multitudes were with me. That's one explanation. Another explanation is that the actual redemption, the actual redemption was for the multitude. Whoa. In other words, not only was the I redeemed, right? In this case, we're speaking about the Alter Rebbe and his redemption. These are the words that he said. It's actually the words also that his son said, or no, his son was redeemed on the 10th day of the month, which this is the chapter that is said, the beginning chapter of Tehillim that is said on the 10th of the month. In any case, it relates to both of them in their incarceration, in their imprisonment by the Tsar of Russia at the time. Right? One in 1798, and the other one was 1826, I think, if I recall correctly, the Mittler Rebbe. In any case, the redemption was not just for them, but it was for the multitudes, for everyone. So two different explanations of what it means. The multitude were with me, either with me that in my redemption or with me with me, meaning they caused my redemption because of their prayers, or with me that as I was redeemed, so were they. Two different ways to read those words. Fascinating. Fascinating. Okay, now, sounds great, amazing. What does this all mean? How does this apply to my life? Right? What's the take home for me? Um, so we need to understand that, and we will. You know how we're going to understand that? By understanding how God looks into the Torah and creates the world, which is a fascinating idea, right? Which means we have to look into the Torah, and since the Torah is the blueprints for creation, it becomes then the source for us to understand life, because it creates life, right? Which is, it's not a reflection of life. It's not like, there's a world God created, and now he gives us he gives us a marching orders. He gives us a manner that we can guide ourselves. He gives us that's the word I'm looking for. You buy yourself a washing machine and you get the guidelines on how to use the washing machine, right? And those guidelines will help you to make sure you get nice, clean clothes and you don't break your machine. Which reminds me, I've got to reach out to somebody because we have a problem with our washing machine. Well, I'm glad I mentioned that because it just reminded me. So, the manual to the washing machine, right? And then there's a manual to life. That's the Torah. So no, it's the opposite. Torah is God's divine will and wisdom. That's not just a manual for life. It's what God looked into as blueprints to create life. So by understanding Torah's wisdom, then not only is that a manual for life, but that will create life, real, good life for us. But the explanation of this is going to be, God willing, in tomorrow's class. All right. To be continued. All right. It's wonderful to be back. Welcome to everybody. Away for a few days, celebrating our grandson's bar mitzvah in Northern California. And that was wonderful, beautiful. And we should only get together to celebrate life, to create life. All right, we will see. We'll see.